Phoenix.
Yes.
Phoenix, wake up. Phoenix, wake up.
Yes, I'm awake.
Phoenix, the Magukas are back. They're back. They're all back, Phoenix. There's so many Magukas. Oh my god, they're all here.
There are a lot of Magukas.
Do you remember them? Do you remember the 5 and then the other ones and then all the other ones and the ones from the other ones? Wow.
I have forgotten so many names of characters. It's been too long.
Hey everybody, it's me, Cube.
And Fiend. And yeah, we're here to talk about Magia Record Season 2, which is finally here.
Season 2, bitches. Which is more interesting than Season 1 so far.
I was about to say, like, in terms of initial impressions, we're reviewing episode 1 and 2, just off the back of 1 and 2. Initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, the first episode is obviously mostly just fan service, and, like, it's fine in some ways. I mean, I have mixed feelings about different aspects of it, but not a whole lot to talk about there in terms of writing and whatnot. But... well, I mean, there's some, but the second episode, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm just kind of intrigued.
Yeah, same.
They're deviating a lot from the game, and I believe that Inukuri also were the main writers on the game. It's almost like they're having a do-over where they try to make their story more interesting, and it's interesting.
It's either a do-over or it's like they're adapting to what they think will be more interesting for an anime, but it's definitely like, I think I said this on the Twitter, like, deviating from the story of the game isn't the worst idea.
Oh no,
it wasn't that strong in places. But no, it's so far. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by. I'm at least very interested to see how this story is going to change.
Yeah,
if nothing else.
I'm waggling my eyebrows up and down a bit. What are you doing? But first episode, like we said, it's mostly, in my opinion, fan service, more or less, because it's checking in with the main girls from the original show, how they're dealing with learning about witches in this other way because of what happened in the first season. And it's mostly just an excuse to show them doing things. Yeah,
it is. It had a bit of the same appeal for me as Rebellion. It's just sort of fun to see these guys teaming up and fighting and shit.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Let them do stuff.
It's also nice in terms of this story because the fact that Madoka and Sayaka and, well, not Homura, but Madoka, the fact that Madoka and Sayaka found out about witches this way in the game is extremely brushed over. Like, Sayaka just kind of goes, oh man, that sucks, goes back, tells Madoka, and later on you get a text from Madoka that's like, oh, oof.
Yeah.
that's kind of all you see. Whereas here, this episode is about the fallout from that. I mean, some of it's repetitive because they've got it starts off with a whole bit with Kuroe explaining the whole witch entropy thing, which I get why it's in here because maybe you've never seen some Madoka before, but also if you've seen any Madoka before, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, wrap it up, buddy, come on.
The idea of watching this season not having seen any Madoka, I want to talk to that person and be like, so what the fuck do you think is happening? What's your experience of what's going on here?
Yeah. Something else I kind of liked about the dynamic here was that the game reality is one where Mami leaves them before she's killed or something, or she's not killed, or say it's a loop where Homura made an effort to make sure Mami didn't die. So Mami's left them, and now Sayaka comes back with the news that Mami's holy Mami and all fucked in the head.
Did she have to describe her visually to the other girls? I want that to have happened.
There were so many 3D guns. Fuck. It was sort of interesting. You get the impression that the Madoka and Sayaka have been leaning pretty heavily on Mami. Like in this version of the story where Mami doesn't die before those two become magical girls, Mami's still got this fairly important place as the strong leader,
Yeah.
In that dynamic. And that's part of the thing in this episode is that they lose a bit of hope and become very uncertain because they've lost Mami.
And I definitely do appreciate, the fact that this episode appreciates my girl and everyone appreciates how important she is. And I'm like, yeah, you respect my girl, my daughter. It might not respect her with designs or whatnot, but,
No, they were very disrespectful in other ways. The other little interesting thing about that section, though, is that we find out that, I guess, at some point before she left, Mami confessed her fears to Madoka?
Yeah, it's kind of like the scene that she had with Madoka in Charlotte's Barrier in episode 3. Just that general, I'm always alone, I put on a brave face, but I'm just posing, and actually I'm just a baby.
Yeah. But it seemed like where that was a chance for Madoka to say, don't worry, I'll stay with you and we'll be friends and everything. It seems like it had it was more of a negative spin on it this time. That led to Mami essentially disappearing from their lives for a bit. Yeah, it's sort of, I don't know. I'm always kind of up for an alternate spin on the events of something, sort of seeing how it plays out, because sometimes it can be kind of interesting.
No, yeah, it's in general, I think we were both kind of on board for the general idea of Mami, being more susceptible to being put in with the black feathers and wanting to save magical girls and being kind of desperate.
Yeah.
You know, the main problem is that she just became this super booby, silly, crazy lady.
Yeah. I never liked how that manifested, but I did like from the original game the idea that Mummy, first of all, was more susceptible, and also afterwards, this was the thing that saved her from witching out. In a way, was that while she was holding Mummy, she kind of had time to process all of it.
Phoenix, she would have just doppeled anyway.
Well, yeah, okay, fair. All right.
Anyways, Patricia, boom. It's the witch with the hand sticking out of the skirt in this cool blue sky zone. Very classic. And it's interesting in this fight because they reuse some shots from the first show. There's a lot in general of shots that are like almost exactly like shots in the original show. It's like they were like, maybe we can get people hype again about the original show. Look, we're showing you the old girls. We're showing you the old animations. Isn't it just like the old show?
It's like you said. This episode is fairly fan servicey, not necessarily in a bad way, but that's what it is.
Yeah. And so yeah, there's some decent animation in this fight, but also some jank, especially when the barrier is going away and Sayaka's holding both of them and it like loops that animation for a while. It's silly.
Yeah, it's flopping around a lot, the animation quality. There's some parts that look great and there's some parts that are too great.
Yeah.
They go overboard.
We're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah, and then there's some parts that are just, a little bit jank. But yeah, it's okay.
Oh, and we get our first head tilt very crucially as they start talking. Sayaka gives us the very important shaft head tilt. Do you know, guys? Did you know it's shaft? It's shaft. Wah!
Yeah, see, here's the thing. Like,
everybody tilt your head. Clap, clap, clap.
There are 4 head tilts in this episode. And like, each head tilt is accompanied by a different emotional state for the person who's doing it. And I'm just like, how is the tilt meant to make me feel at this point? Because it may as well just be like you cut to a Shaft logo.
Yeah.
Because that's all it says now. It says you are watching a Shaft show. See? Like I cutesy winks and whatever, that's one thing, but at this point it just kind of takes me out of the scene.
Oh yeah, I'm too aware of it.
Yeah, it's just dumb and goofy at this point. Stop doing it. Stop fucking tilting.
That's the interesting thing about this show in general is that I don't feel like I can really get into it as a narrative, and I don't know if it's just because of the way that it is or if it's just an inherent fact of, like it's the show version of a gacha game that's a sequel to the thing that's a cash-in. But like as I'm watching it, it's just always like, here's what they're doing with the animation, here's the characters they're throwing together, blah blah blah, and I never really feel like I'm in the story emotionally.
See, it's funny.
So much is going on.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm kind of like with the second ep, which we'll talk about in a minute. I'm actually starting to maybe come around a little bit because being a fan of the original, it's a little hard to get into this thing because it is this sort of weird cross-motion gacha thing that has got one foot in being connected to the original and like it also wants to pretend to be its own thing too. It's also more difficult when you're looking at these characters from the original game as well because it's all just like sort of alternate reality them. But when we get into the next episode, which is like mostly Yachiyo,
yeah, that one has some more moments where it's like it feels like you have time to really experience a character as a person.
Yeah,
as opposed to people just being aggressively weird at you all the time.
Yeah, and it's also like I feel like the show is. Well, I don't feel like I know the show is definitely playing a bit looser with everything. And I'm kind of getting to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm happy to just let you be a bit more loose if it means the other parts of the show flow better. This first little scene where they're talking is like Sayaka reveals to these other two what she knows about how magical girls become witches. And there's like, a good few minutes of Cubase showing up and explaining the whole deal. And it's kind of, it's a bit repetitive.
Yeah,
if you've ever seen this scene before.
It is fun when she chops his head. I really like Sayaka. Sometimes when her cape is mostly covering her, more like a cloak, she looks so cool and cute, and I like it a lot. It's not all the time, but I just remember like there's a part where she's talking, I'm like, look at her cape all covering her, I'm Sayaka. Yeah.
There's kind of a nice bit where like Sayaka picks up on the fact that Homura seems not that shocked by this, so she probably knew.
She doesn't, like, she starts holding her hand in front of her face like a fucking chuny. You remember that? Like, she's freaking out.
Yeah, then Marika's talking and saying, I get it. You didn't want to make us fall to despair by telling us. I get it. It's okay. And Marika does a head tilt. There's two big incongruities in this episode that kind of threw me out of it. It has to do with power levels.
Oh.
Homura's power level and Sayaka's power level are the big issues with this episode for me.
See, my problem with Homura isn't necessarily her power level. It's more she's acting like this is her first loop, despite it definitely not being her first loop because she knows about witches and everything.
Yeah.
And that bugs me because it feels like they're just wanting to lean into the... I don't understand. I mean, I guess I do. I was going to say I don't understand the appeal of Moe Homura as...
yes, you do.
But
yes,
yeah,
you do.
I do. But I hate it. I liked it as a contrast in the original show. I don't like her running around constantly just being like...
Yeah.
And I'm done.
In the original show, she's not around for that personality is not around for very long. And like you say, it's there as a contrast. But this was always a thing with the game, was like, this was something that worked a lot better in the game because they didn't go into too much detail. But Homura in the game, Glasses Homura, you always got the impression that, that this was occurring, this AU was occurring early on in her looping period. So she knew everything, but she wasn't like the super advanced fighter we see later. Whereas in this episode, we have a bunch of she has little internal monologues. She refers to the idea that she's already been looping hundreds of times. And she's up to the point where she has guns as well.
Oh, I didn't see the hundreds.
Well, she mentions like looping endlessly over and over at one point when she's like walking in one of those fucking shaft zones where there's a tree and shit. Like,
yeah, that's from the remake movies. I forgot to talk about that. I think when I discussed the compilations, but when they're talking about things, there's a whole sequence of Homura walking through this red grave zone, and it's whoa, doesn't that make it more art? And I'm like, shut up.
There's lots of extra fucking locations and shit. But yeah, she's talking about like having looped so many fucking times. But this and again, yeah, if you're following the continuity of the TV show, this is the point where she's got guns. So she's a reasonably competent fighter at this point. But when you actually see her fight and when you see the way she acts, well, she's acting like it's like the first loop, like it was in the show, when she's like barely able to fight. Like early on in the episode, she fires a gun once and immediately drops it and falls backwards and is unable to participate in the fight. Like this is a Homura who's really, really on in the loops. The only way this makes sense is if like Homura took a really, really, really long time to get competent. Like, turns out Homura fucking sucks at this whole thing.
It was going to be like it just took her a really, really long time to finally be like, okay, I'll just use the guns.
But she uses guns in this episode. That's the thing.
No, but I'm saying maybe this was the first time she used the guns.
Oh, okay. But she's still getting dragged around and going, because she's, like you said, they wanted Uwu Homura. That's what they wanted. But it's just...
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like, again, I'm trying to be more forgiving of the show, playing a bit looser. But it's just sort of annoying that it's like, the only reason you're playing looser is because you wanted to have this character that I don't like.
Yeah, and it's like, I would have liked to see a mid-stage of her development where, like, she's getting a little more competent, but she's still not the, completely hardened badass Homura. I'd be down for that. Like, she's still a little uwu.
Yeah, but this is like full uwu. Like, this is as uwu. Almost more uwu than she was in the game. And it's kind of, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah. Not my Homura, hashtag.
The other thing is, like, Sayaka, right? So... I mean, this is a Sayaka who learned about witches before she witches out.
Yeah.
But she's going through an emotional arc that kind of makes sense, where she's just afraid. Like, she doesn't want to fight anymore because she's just afraid of the future, afraid of what's going to happen, all this sort of stuff. But the thing is, she keeps talking about herself being weak. And it's like, the Sayaka in this show is demonstrably not weak. The Sayaka in this show is so fucking powerful. Like, she went toe-to-toe with Holy Mummy. And was fine.
Yeah, I'll say, like, at least in this episode, she doesn't do anything as crazy as the instant arm regeneration stuff and all that.
Yeah, but
yeah, obviously, all the characters are much, like, the way that Madoka is able to just fuck shit up with her bow, just do crazy explosions, is like, okay.
Yeah, at the start, Sayaka does save Madoka and Homura from that witch's maze as well, and just, like, carry them both out. It's just a thing of, like, you saying one thing and showing us the other thing. And like the other thing is I'd be totally fine with an AU where Sayaka had more magical potential than she did originally. But it's just weird when they're still playing off the weakness thing.
Yeah, and I mean my assumption is, obviously there's aspects of it where you have to assume that this is supposed to be within the continuity of the loops of the original show.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like, it's not like they're really taking time to introduce us to these new versions of these characters. They're just acting like they were always way stronger.
Like this. Yeah.
I thought this episode had, like, a weirdly harsh idea of Sayaka just because of the way that she's, like, I just want to save me. I don't care about anyone else. And I was like, I don't know. Because part of Sayaka's whole deal was that she was so obsessed with like being the hero and saving everybody, and that's part of why she kind of lost it. And so it was strange to me to have her be like, I don't care.
Yeah, there was a little, again, a little incongruous. I didn't mind the idea of her being, of this version of Sayaka who gets to learn about witches being overwhelmed by the whole thing at first.
Yeah.
In general, though, like I said, this episode was kind of fan servicey, and I didn't mind it so much. The little emotional arcs weren't too bad, I thought. Like,
yeah, I'd say mixed bag.
Mixed bag, yeah. And I definitely did like the bit where they were sort of team fighting at the end there. Like, that was... I don't know. I know it was a bit dorky, but like the whole thing with like Sayaka's running along and Madoka's like standing on her back firing arrows while they're both sort of...
I can't handle. She's riding Sayaka's side saddle like a horse.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool. I don't know.
I was like, I don't know how to feel about this. This is supposed to be funny.
It's a bit silly, but it was also like, it's one of those things where it's again, it has that appeal that the first third of Rebellion had, where it's like you get to see them all fighting together like this is some other magical girl show.
Yeah, there's a cute aspect to that.
Yeah, and they were talking about how they wanted to save Mummy, and also that like even if Mummy was scared, they all took inspiration from her and stuff, and that was nice. And Justice Gradinium is playing, and yeah, I don't know.
It was weird seeing Homura compliment Mommy, because like at one point she's like, if it was Tomoe, surely she would. And I was like, oh wow, this is a Homura that actually doesn't think that Mommy's annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it might be that like Homura only got significantly annoyed with Mummy after like many more loops where she just kept getting in the way.
Yeah. Like
earlier on, she was more grateful to the fact that like she should have been in the show, that Mummy saved her, just like Madoka did.
Yeah, she sure did. Fucking never gave her the respect she deserves.
I sort of enjoyed that part. I was, as a little bit of fun and fan service, I had a nice time. I guess.
Okay, but there's more aspects of it I have to talk about.
Sure.
Oh, one. It's Homura's transformation animation is cool. I like it.
Yes, it was really nice. Yeah.
The weird part, though, is that it doesn't have its own music, and the music that plays during it is kind of like just like a general BGM that doesn't feel very hype. So it felt like, like someone had made the animation not knowing that, and I was like, where's the transformation music? It's a strange.
Yeah, I suppose a little bit off. Yeah, a bad transformation.
No. You don't
want to talk about that yet?
No, I don't want to talk about it ever.
So one of the characters in this show has ribbons, and do you know what ribbons are good for?
Madoka isn't even the ribbon one. She isn't even the ribbon one.
Well, she has a ribbon or two, but yeah, there's
Madoka's transformation is bondage, and I hate it. Gotta wrap her up like a Christmas present, but she's all like shish kebabbed with her arms and legs out.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if it wasn't anime, maybe you'd give it a pass, but it's anime, so you're just giving her the big old side eye. Why does her transformation involve being wrapped up in ribbons?
And it's the first of 2 times she gets bondage this episode.
Yeah, she's the bondage character now.
Like, there's precedent for, girls being wrapped in ribbons and transformations, like how Sailor Moon does it. And, like there, they managed to make it not bondagey. But here, it's like, oh no, I'm all tied up by the ribbons.
Yeah.
Oh,
no. I don't like it.
Sucks. Pass. Hard like pass.
It.
But what is fun is so not ribbons, but a similar physicality, caution tape.
That was great. I loved that.
It's so weird because witches work a bit differently than the original Madoka in this show. They they always take people with their kiss into their barrier, I guess, and eat them in their barrier or whatever.
Yeah. But
the people are just kind of wandering towards the barrier like zombies, and Homer is like, oh no, how do I keep them from going into the witch's barrier? And she puts up caution tape like a police line, and the zombie people are just kind of like, and
it's like written in the fancy Madoka font. It's so fucking good. I love it. She just has that. I like the idea that this is the earlier Homura who has more gentle methods, and one of them is fucking caution tape.
But it's also if you think about the people during that episode where they all tried to commit mass suicide and Madoka had to stop them and Sayaka comes in and saves everybody, they were fucking way more go-getter than these guys.
That's true. I mean...
Oh, I'm not allowed to cross, okay.
Maybe Patricia's just not very strong. And that's how it manifests.
It's the polite witch.
Yeah. Even Patricia was like, "Oh shit, caution tape." Okay, sorry.
So yeah, so Homura goes to fight Patricia by herself, and Madoka like senses that she's doing that, and she goes to save her, and she's psychically talking to Sayaka and guilt trips her into coming.
I mean, yeah, I almost liked that as like both of them have told Homura not to fight on her own already this episode, and then Homura does, just because if she doesn't, then all these people are going to get killed. But
yeah.
And then when Madoka's going off saying, "I'm going off to save Homura, I'm not going to come back if you don't come and save me," as a way of like sort of snapping Sayaka out of her funk. And then she says, "Well, look at it this way, maybe if you come, maybe Homura will save you," which does happen then in the fight. There's a little bit where Homura does that, and then I guess for the first time they figure out that Sayaka realizes that you can, if Homura is touching you, you're frozen in that time space the same as she is.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Before Homura does the time freeze thing, it's time for the Sakuga.
Yeah.
So this guy, I forget his name, but he's the person who animated the super ridiculously over-the-top wind scene in episode 2 of Ass Lily.
Oh.
And so it's...
Okay. That explains some things.
He doesn't seem like a team player, is the vibe I get. He's like, I'm here to show the fuck off. I don't care if my stuff stands out and seems like it doesn't belong in the show at all. I'm going to go off.
It fucking sucks because, like, there is some genuinely nice Sakuga in this episode. But it's not this bit, and this was the bit that people kept sharing.
Look, I like some of it. I like when Sayaka pulls they all have like a mommy ribbon with them in this company because whatever, it's just a thing they decided. And like, it looks cool, but it's also very, like, this is Sakuga now entering the Sakuga zone.
My issue with it is that you can't really follow what's going on. It's just a bunch of cool animation.
Yeah, after that shot, it's
just kind of over the top, and it's sort of... One, it feels like showing off, and two, it doesn't really add anything to the scene. There are better bits of Sakuga, like animation in this episode, where I'm able to like follow how the fight's traveling and stuff, which I don't know, I prefer that. I want to, like, the animation's no good to me if I don't know what the fuck's happening. Like,
yeah, because it's Sayaka like really flying around, hitting all the things, but it feels really like he wants to be very impressive. So there's Sayaka, and there's like 50 other things in every shot, and every shot has to be the most extreme angle, close up, whatever possible.
Yeah.
And so you end up getting lost in terms of exactly what's happening, and you're like, these are some good drawings. I'm seeing good drawings here. Okay.
It's also hurt by the fact that like the zone that they're in has no floor. So there's no real sense of where you are in space, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So things are just kind of like floating around very dramatically.
Yeah. But that said, there's still like some nice looking stuff in there, and like I said, there's better cuter fight stuff in there elsewhere in that episode. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's when Homura and her end up holding hands, and there's like a weird line where she's like, "Why didn't I realize something so simple sooner? We're all magical girls." And I'm like, yeah.
Well, like, it kind of ties into what Madoka was saying before when she was running off to her. She was saying like, "I'm really afraid of what's going to happen, but I figure if we can all work together, I think we'll get through it." It's, that's a nice message, I guess.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, I just realized we can work together because I'm not the only one of us that's a magical girl, and I'm like, duh.
Yeah, it was phrased a bit strangely, and there is this nice little moment where like Madoka's still frozen, so they both go up to her and take her hand, and so she's in the time stop realm with them now, and Sayaka's here and saying, "Come on, let's fight together," and Madoka's just so fucking happy, and I'm like, that's nice. But this is what I mean. This is the nice fan service sort of aspects of it.
Like, still can't handle her riding Sayaka.
With her permission, to be fair.
This is very silly.
But this is the shit part of this, is that like Homura's helping by just being there using the time stoppy. So like as Sayaka's running along the clotheslines, Homura's just wobbling behind, like waving in the wind behind her, going yeah, because she's uwu and it's annoying.
No, he's
I find it very frustrating.
Oh, also earlier during when she was had stopped time, she saw the Ui saying, "If you come to Kamihama, magical girls can be saved." Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
because this whole thing is kind of like harkening back to the tutorial of the original game, where you do that fight and Homura sees her and is like, "Whoa, maybe I can save Madoka's in this loop somehow." Woo!
I liked the effect they used on Ui there, where like she's sort of glitching in and out, but her face stays in place, so the parts of her body around her will sort of occasionally like half disappear and shit. But I don't know, it was something very appealing about that effect.
Look, it's no My Wiggly Girl who doesn't show up yet, and she better fucking be in this season. If there's no My Wiggly Girl, 0 out of 10. I'm out. Wiggly Girl. Credits.
Yeah, in general, yeah. I went into this season 2 with very low expectations. It took me a long time to actually work up the effort to just watch the fucking thing.
Yeah.
But having watched it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of, okay, maybe, yeah, all right, we might be doing better. And then the after credit scene.
Wait, real quick. The credits, I couldn't tell. Some of the Sakuga in it, I was like, is that from the Blu-ray? Were all those shots in the original show? I don't remember some of these shots.
I skipped it. I can't tell.
Disgusting. Anyways, time for Yachio to choke a bitch.
Yeah, so Yachiyo's doing the fucking dirty harrying all around town. Yachiyo's choking a black feather, trying to find out where the
Tell me where the Magias are. Tell me where the Magias are.
Yeah, we can roll straight into episode 2 now at this point, I guess, because this more or less follows straight in.
Yeah, but the girl's like, I don't know. There's a moving base. It's Hotel Fainthope or Fenthope. And we see Kuroe. She's gonna be a character this season. You're who the fuck girl.
Yeah.
She's ready. She's been baking in the oven for the first season, and she's ready to come out as a character. I got really confused at first during this because so Kuroe goes to Neru the book, and she's like in bed and being like, I'm not feeling so good, and she asks Kuroe, do you know One-san Tamaki Iroha? I mean, and I was like, is what? Because it's like, why would she address her as One-san when talking to Kuroe? Is Kuroe Ui? Is she like a sexy dark hair Ui?
No, I think it's just that like they all called her sister because she used to visit them all the time because she was Ui's sister, and they were all like sisters.
I guess.
I think that was the idea.
Yeah, it was just a very confusing thing for her to ask Kuroe.
Well, yeah, but it's also like a teaser at the end of a show, so it's an episode, so it's
But do you know, big sister? As Kuroe, I'd be like, I'm leaving.
So like I said before, coverage of the previous season. The story of the anime hewed fairly closely to the game until the last few episodes it really started to turn off and started doing its own thing. The start of this season is like definitely like, okay, we're doing something else now. Because there's been some sort of time skip. Like it feels like at least like a month.
I don't...
Like time has passed.
Because they're still in that fucking meeting. Oh, wait. Oh, no. On Yachiyo's end. Yeah. Okay. So I guess the meeting is less in the future, and then we see Yachiyo in the future.
Unless it's another meeting. Because, like, a lot of the girls have... So what's happened is, like, first of all, every magical girl in the show other than Yachiyo is now in the wings of the Magias.
Yeah.
Because where the other guys just turned up to the meeting last time, now they're in robes. Like they've all got their own uniforms. And you see that Momoko and Rika have joined Kuroe. I forgot all his names.
Momoko and Rena have joined Kaede. That group of 3, the like B team, is all there. Yeah. And Felicia and the hammer
Felicia
one
and Sana. Yeah.
The green shield girl.
They're there and Felicia is talking about how, well, it seems like the Magius' plan's going to work and I want to save everyone, so that's why I joined. Which, again, in the game, those guys sort of seemed to fake join for a bit so they could pop out of uniforms at one point and like save Iruwa and Yachiyo from something. But in this version, it seems like, oh no, they've actually joined up. They seem to actually buy what's being sold.
Yeah, because in the game, they're supposed to be like brainwashed. Wait.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we don't hear or see anything of Tsuruno yet, right?
No, yeah, Tsuruno's just not here. And Yachiyo, we see Yachiyo right after the events of the last thing, where she's standing in the ruins of the memory museum and she thinks Iruwa's dead. She's in denial about whether or not Iruwa's dead. And her doppel is talking to her, like we saw last season, and telling her she's dead. Ha ha.
Bully.
Post time skip, you just sort of get the impression that Yachiyo has been going around beating up wings of the Magius, trying to get any information about where they are because she wants to kill the Magius.
I'm gonna cry because you're skipping the OP.
Look, it's good, but there's nothing to talk about.
We have to talk about all the things. No, There is.
Okay.
Fucking, can't tell me there's nothing to talk about. You don't tell me there's nothing to talk about the OP.
It's a good song, but I don't know.
No, I don't care about the song. What I care about is I think it's interesting that it seems to ship Momoko and Mitama, the shop lady, in like, you know, like it has them laying like head to head, and it's like I guess it kind of makes sense as a ship and stuff. It just feels like pretty full on for those two.
Yeah, I mean they did have their own relationship in the game where Momoko was like working for her and fetching her grief seeds and shit.
Yeah,
because Mitama couldn't fight, but
they didn't have as much of a kissy kiss, but I'm like, I guess it's a pretty solid ship. Now, all the way that the Iroha and Kuroe are played in the OP, I'm like, is this a ship? And then I'm like, did they introduce Kuroe so that Iroha could have someone to be ambiguously gay with who isn't like 8 years older than her? Is that why Kuroe exists?
That was always the issue with shipping her with Yachiyo.
Yeah, like obviously the game ships her with Yachiyo, but Yachiyo is way too old for her. So I when they like really play up like her and Kuroe, you know, like being together, holding hands and stuff, much more so than, you know, Iroha being with Yachiyo in the OP, I'm like, what's going on here, guys?
I just like that Kuroe's back after an entire season of just not being here. It's just like they're gonna be, oh no, she's gonna be very important this time. Don't worry, we assure you this time we're not gonna just forget about her.
Yeah, look, we weren't able to get around to the Black Feather stuff in the first season as much, so we had no choice. Come on.
This is sort of interesting because this is something that they did cover at the end of the last episode, at the end of the last season, was Yachiyo's whole paranoia about her curse or her wish of making sure that anyone who's like she's around dies to protect her.
Yeah,
that was a nice moment in the game and the sort of turning point where Iroha sort of takes control for once and is like, no. Fuck that! I'm going to prove it to you that I'm, you know, that isn't what it's about. And then, of course, in the events of the show, she's dead or has died or seems to have died. Rocks fell and she died. So Yachiyo's all fucked up about it and angry and shit.
Yeah. We don't really see this Yachiyo in the game so much. With the anime goes very angry Yachiyo.
Honestly, I'm kind of down.
Oh yeah,
this was sort of fun to see. Like just her going around, super angry Yachiyo going around who just wants fucking revenge and is just all business.
Time for her to stop being polite and start being real.
It's kind of, I don't know. It was kind of appealing.
Yeah.
It's just sort of fun to see, I guess.
Yeah, and then when she gets really mad at Mitama and she's like, I'll fuck you up, Mitama, I'm like, hell yeah, fuck Mitama. Not Mitama.
Yep.
God damn it, me for you. There's too many me's.
Yeah. Well, she does that with Mitama as well. It's interesting because I actually feel like between her and Mifuyu, they actually do some nice character work in this, in terms of their outlooks and shit. And the other thing that happens is they might finally be justifying the idea that you shouldn't doppel all the time.
Yeah, they actually do.
They finally work on that. Like, because that's always been the biggest issue with the game, was that they talk about doppling like it's a bad thing, but it's clearly not a bad thing. It makes you more powerful. It cleanses your gym. Like even in this episode, there's a part where like Yachiyo goes to see the shopkeeper girl, partly because she wants info and also just because she needs some grief seeds. But like having played the game, I was like, just go doppel. just go doppel in a quiet place. It's fine.
Yeah, but I guess she doesn't wanna.
Mitama explains what she knows about doppling, and also that she also mentions that it has dangerous side effects and is highly addictive.
Drugs.
But they don't go into like. They don't go into like what's the side effect. But I guess again, I guess it's like
liver damage.
I guess it's like if we're not doing the game thing this time, then for now it's a mystery and that's cool. And at the end of this episode, we do actually get a kind of side effect, I guess.
Yeah, we get a reason why you would actually not maybe want to do it.
Yeah. So the other thing that's happening in this episode is Kuroe is given a little mission by Nemu that Nemu is like, don't tell anyone else about this. Don't even tell the other one.
Yeah, so she remembers Iroha in the show, which she, you know, like none of them did in the game. And I love that, like, she just like straight up reveals something that you don't learn until really late in the game, where she's just like, yeah, I made all the Uwasa, that's me, that's my job. And also I'm dying, so whatever. But also I want you to, yeah, oops. and I want you to go find the Eternal Sakura. We're skipping to the fucking end of Arc 1, I guess.
Well, it's like we're using all the same elements, but we're playing with them in a very different way.
Nemu is speed running this shit.
Because not only does she like say, "Yeah, I need to go find the Eternal Sakura," I also know like roughly where it is. So just go here to this abandoned mall, to this abandoned, extremely fucking extra mall.
I love that they go back there.
They just can't. It's just. I get it, Shaft. Like I get it. You guys are mad for crazy looking fucking locations and shit. I understand, but like. Just calm down a little bit, please. It's so distracting.
There's something even funnier about it being a recurring place to me. Like the fact that this, like, you know, like you assume it's supposed to be kind of weird, kind of liminal, but the fact that they go back there, it's just like, oh, I need to go back to that, you know, crazy ass abandoned mannequin zone. You go hang out there.
Yeah, and the mannequins are all like missing limbs and they're wrapped in red ribbon because what's red ribbon good for? And God.
Oh, but real quick, when Nemu is giving her the mission, you know, she's like, here, it's written on this paper, but then a bunch of papers just like fall around Kuroe, and it's like, pick them up, bitch.
And she picks up like 3 of them, but not all. Like, there's a lot still on the ground. I'm like, are you gonna?
Yeah, were these all copies? Did your copy machine break? Why did they fall from the sky?
Everyone can't help just be fucking extra. It's great.
I want to think it's like they didn't want to animate her like going over and being handed it, so they just had it fall from the sky.
Like Yachiyo learns from Miss.
We doing the Mitama scene?
I thought we already did that.
No! You're a bully. Because we talked about like some of like what they talked about together, but we didn't talk about the actual scene and like what happens in it. Like the fact that they finally bring back the stupid thing that they did once in the original show, where the weapon come out of your soul gem and just like points at someone, because her spear is just like she's holding her soul gem in her hand and her spear's just like coming on out of it all long, pointing at Mitama, and I think it would look really funny.
I don't know. I kind of got it as like she's not fucking about.
I mean, but she's not fucking about enough to transform.
No, I suppose.
That's what makes it so funny to me. It's just sticking out of the fucking soul gem.
I kind of dug that, like, this is another one of those things that wasn't revealed till later in the game, but we're learning it now, is that, like, Mitama just sort of admits that, yeah, I'm playing both sides. Like, you know, I'm neutral, but I'm totally helping out the Magias and everything they're doing too. She takes this weird line which is like, I don't necessarily agree with what they're doing, but it seems fine. Like, I
was confused when Yachiyo was like, can't they doppeled, but can't people only doppel that get coordinated by you? And I was like, was that supposed to be a thing?
I don't remember that from the game.
And then Mitama's like, I just stabilize them some. And I'm like, so why did she think they could only do it with, okay.
The other thing is that it really feels like Yachiyo's the only one who's still acknowledging that their plan to save magical girls involves sacrificing normal people. And Yachiyo's like, that's fucked. I don't want to do that.
Well, most people don't know.
Well, I mean, Mitama seems to know. Because Yachiyo says that to her and, like, Mitama's like, eh.
That's true.
Like, she doesn't really acknowledge it.
Oh, by the way, we didn't mention in that earlier scene where they're all the black feathers, there's so many.
There's so many black feathers,
There's so many of them.
Like,
there's so fucking many of them.
It's one of those things where, like, again, playing fast and loose with the thing, it looks cooler if there's a ton of them. And, like, in the game, you do have to fight a lot of them. But, like, it's if you think back to the original show, there's normally only meant to be, like, 1 or 2 magical girls to a city. And Kamihama seems to have a few hundred magical girls. Even if you, like, even with the idea that some of them come from other cities and shit. It's a lot of magical girls.
Yeah, like, if that number of girls in that room is canon, how is anyone in the city talking about anything other than the fact that suddenly there's 1,000 new teen girls hanging out here, and why are they here, and what the fuck is happening? It's completely changing the economy.
Yeah, and also, like, how are they possibly picking up enough grief seeds? But this is all stuff you can hand wave. It's fine. Like,
yeah, it's just a bit over the top.
It's Shaft. Everything in this show, like something we don't really I haven't really talked about, but like you just have to bear in mind that just about every location in this show is so fucking extra that it kind of sets the tone for things just being a bit over the top. I'm able to sort of sit with it a bit easier this time. Like even like when you see Yachiyo, she's got like a map of things on the wall with the red strings and all that shit. She's doing everything in the house in the dark. Like and she has this scene where she puts She puts Iroha's mug with her other dead friend's mug, and it's, oh, she's dead.
Look, that's not on the same level as like crazy mannequin mall arena.
Oh, sure, but it's what I mean is like there is not a single normal location or a location that is treated normally. Like Yachio's place was like the one in the show before, which was like it's just a house. But even that now is like extra dramatic. So here's the thing: Kuroe is sent to the abandoned mall by Nemu because that's where apparently the Eternal Sakura is somewhere near there.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. And she meets the baby Kyubey there, who joins up with her and is trying to lead her somewhere. At the same time, I don't quite get how Yachiyo knew to go to this mall either, but like maybe it was like the location of some, because she's told by the Black Feather she's choking out in the end of the last episode, and also by Bintama that like you have to be invited to get into the Hotel of Faint Hope. Like you can't, and it's all the entrance is always in a different location. So maybe this mall was like somewhere it had been before, but they don't quite establish why she's there. But she's there.
Yeah, it just seems like maybe she was just generally Uwasa hunting. Like she just kind of shows up and is like, "Oh yeah, Uwasa, we're here too." Like it's like she's been wandering around in a haze looking for the next plot point or something.
Yeah, we do see her fight in Uwasa briefly, which is a nice little bit of animation, and it is one of those things where it's like, again, this was part of the appeal for Yachiyo for me, was that she is like a veteran magical girl. She can kick an ass and like can fight really well and is like super hardened. Like that's part of the appeal of her character, which is kind of why I like this episode, because it was just, you get to see this really business side of her, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
I think it was a little fan comment, but someone did the one where she was fighting Mami at some point and called Mami like a kid. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
you always think, if you think to the original show, you always think of Mami as the veteran, but like compared to Yachiyo, she was, like several years behind her.
Yeah, she ain't shit.
The other thing you get in this episode is a more thorough explanation of Yachiyo's past. It started with the whole thing where she was in that team of models, and all those other models didn't make it as a career, whereas she did.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the whole survival curse thing.
Yeah, that's how the episode opens up, is her being like, "Oh, I'm so alone because I'm the only model who made it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've always been alone."
She swore she wouldn't start another team because it would just get someone killed. And this is a version where it's happened a third time. So, yeah, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, so Yachiyo runs into Kuroe and is trying to be like, "Hey, you're a black feather, come here." And Kuroe's like, "No."
And so they're running through the abandoned mall and arrive at a concrete maze that has a giant concrete sculpture of the Magia symbol. Because of course it fucking does.
Like you do.
Fucking show.
Look, that's normal. I thought you were down. I thought you were down with the sickness.
I am, but it's still really funny. Anyway, Mifuyu's there.
Hey, it's me, Mifuyu, with my silly towel headband and shit.
My silly towel headband and my big hoop sword. And they have a fight, and I liked it. I thought it was a cool fight.
It's funny because Yachiyo can summon infinity spears to shoot at Mifuyu, and Mifuyu has a hoop in her hand. And it's like, this fight isn't...
It's one of those things, like, the impression you sort of get is, like, Yachiyo's angry. Yachiyo's just fucking mad at the world, and she's the one itching for a fight way more than Mifuyu is. And Mifuyu is just kind of defending. And while they're fighting, they do sort of get into... They don't hold back from this thing that we eventually did learn about Mifuyu, is that she's kind of a coward.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of her whole thing, is that the reason she's working with the Magius and the reason that she's doing all this stuff is because she's just fucking afraid. She doesn't want to end up being a witch. She doesn't want to die. She does all this stuff, that's the whole reason she turned in the game originally. And like, I don't know, I kind of like that they just went for it in this episode.
Yeah, I like that aspect. It's like, I can believe that. It's like, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to fucking die. Yeah. It's totally viable. And again, this was something that was occasionally good about Reco, was that it explored the different type of magical girls you might get outside of the ones we saw in the original series. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, Yachiyo's mad. And there's like, they both end up doppling. The figure's doppel sucks. It's just this weird big cloth balloon thing.
And there's a whole part of this fight where there's definitely Sakuga of some sort happening. But again, it's that same kind of thing where it's just like, camera, it's moving around, stuff's moving around. And because they're both just these, like fucking different things on top of each other where you can barely see the person, it's just like, shapes.
I think I've grown to really like Yachiyo's doppel. There's something about it.
It looks less like a plesiosaur now. I think they were able to
true.
stress different aspects of it.
Yeah, she's got more of the scorpion thing going on. I still just love that she has the big hat. She's like, part of her doppel is a fashionable hat.
No, yeah, I like the hat thing, and yeah, it's like there's some shots where like water things are happening and it looks kind of cool, but then there's like some continuous shots where it's just like
they fall through the maze and into this other room that's extremely extra, because of course they do. And we finally get the justification for, hey, don't doppel all the time, because Mitama said something about the thing about the doppels is their representation of base emotions or your base emotional state. So up to this point, Yachiyo has had her own face, but you keep switching back and forth between her face and the sort of doppel mask.
Yeah, spooky doppel mask.
Yeah, and so she's got Mifuyu down, and she's standing over her with that sort of scorpion pose, and she's saying, "You're weak. You're just a weak person. This is this is why you've ended up this way, and this is why you've dragged loads of other people into this. So you should probably die. I'm going to kill you." And she almost does before she pulls herself back and says, "No, this isn't me. I don't want to sacrifice anyone else."
Yeah.
For the first time, they've given us justification. When you doppel, you are not yourself. You're sort of handing control of yourself over to your like this more base emotional state.
Yeah, and they kind of gave you the impression early on that there was supposed to be kind of that aspect to it in the game, but of course you're using it all the time functionally, and then your characters are just doppling all the goddamn time.
Yeah, yeah.
So they never really dug into any reason why you wouldn't always do it.
Yeah, they didn't, like, early on there was the thing with, it wasn't even an emotional state thing with Iro when she first doppled. It was just, she just sort of goes away and fights really hard. Whereas this was finally more like, you actually do lose control a bit, which, yeah, that's perfectly acceptable and functions well. And I think, yeah, it works better in the anime because you don't, like you say, you're not just using it all the time in fights like you are in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I like how Mitama keeps saying, like, it's for the sake of weak people like me and Iroha, and then, Yachiyo's like, Iroha's nothing like you, she's not stupid dumb bitch like you, she's cool.
Well, this is the thing, she's saying that, like, Iro was nothing like you because Iro wasn't selfish like you. She wasn't just out to save herself like you were. She was trying to save everyone. Right. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, that is a nice point. Like, again, this is this thing. I like these two's dynamic, and I like the base issue they have with each other. And this was something they did lean into the game, which is why Mifuyu should have fucking died. It's like that she did, like, because she had something to make up for, you know?
Yeah.
Like she had a understandable but still personal flaw that led, like, she did a lot to help the Magius out. She did a lot to engender the situation that was eventually made at the end of the game. And it's like,
to kill people.
Yeah, she never really makes up for that in the game, in plot. Like, it seemed like she might because she was going to die, but then of course she doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, because this is the other thing why, like, I can't get 100% enthused about Reco, is that at the end of this thing, it's fan servicey in the sense that it is just a big giant happy ending. You know?
What if maybe in the show people can die though?
I mean, that would be something. That would be something.
Kill Toka, kill Toka, kill Toka.
But what's funny is the only one I want to survive now is Alina. Keep her around. This show's Tyrion, and I like her.
Oh yeah, we didn't really see her.
We saw her like once in a long shot. That was about it.
Yeah, but yeah, she's a boss bitch.
She's awful. I hate her, but she's great. Now, so yeah, Mifuyu just leaves, and she's going to take Kuroe with her. But then, like, she makes a big bubble, and they're about to transport away in the bubble. But then Baby Cube jumps off Kuroe's shoulder, and she goes to chase her, and then the bubble leaves.
It's like awkward.
It really makes it seem accidental. But then, like, Baby Cube runs down this corridor, and the other two chase her. The corridor turns into like an oasis labyrinth, and they run into a big dead-seeming tree, which is the Eternal Sakura. And you hear the rumor, which is that same thing from the game. One day, 3 girls will leave hospital, and with the girl who used to visit them all the time, they will sit under this tree. It's shit rumor, but we see like this little ball of light traveling down through the tree. And then you see there's a person in there, and it's Iroha.
Yay!
Oh, and she got the Yuasa face. End of episode.
Oh no, that's spooky, scary.
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't get to do because there's part where after they fight, the water's dripping everywhere on them, and I was like, good thing Mifuyu's outfit is made of towels. It's very absorbent.
Yes. That Yero in the chat is asking how the fuck is that a rumor, and like it didn't really matter in the game because it wasn't a very popular rumor. Like it was very hard to find, which kind of made sense because it was a shit rumor.
Yeah, it was just like a comforting thing to tell between the four of them.
Yeah. Like it only existed within the hearts of four people, and was also like in the game, it was incongruous because it said there were four people. When as far as Nemu and Toku knew, there should only have been three, or even just two, really, because everyone's forgotten about Ui.
Yeah, I forgot exactly like which part of that they were like, oh, that is weird, because I thought they just completely rewrote their memory so it all worked.
The rumor didn't make sense to them, but like they were also like, eventually they said like, oh, I guess Ui probably must exist, but who gives a shit? We're going to keep going with that plan until they fully get their memories back. They're still just running. Nothing will change their minds.
Yeah, and it's definitely works a bit better here how it's introduced, because in the game it's just something that like Iroha suddenly remembers and decides to check out conveniently.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, we're going into the finale. Hey, I suddenly remembered a super duper important rumor that's very important to the four of us.
Yeah, and she remembers it like while there's quite a bit of stuff happening. It doesn't seem like the time to sort of try and track down some rando rumor, but it's very important, so yeah, she does.
Yeah. Oh, and also the ending, there's the ending and it's nothing. There's no animation. And I'm like, man, you had Magia in the first show, and you had like the Yachiyo's weird ending in the first one, that's okay. But it's like, oh wow, this is literally just a picture of the tree.
Yeah. Oh well.
It just makes me wonder, like, Shaft, how you holding up in terms of the budget and everything? How you doing, Shaft? How long can you handle it? How long can you handle it, Shaft?
This is what I was going to say. Like, I'm fine with Shaft finding ways to save money early on. Like, that's fine. That's what they want to do. Because that's the other thing. Like, while some of the Sakuga and fight scenes and stuff have been good in places, I'm not relying on that lasting through to the end of the show. Because it's Shaft. This is what they do.
Yeah.
I did forget how much I liked the song. It's a good, like the OP song. It's a good, like it was from the game as well. All the music in the game was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I was a little bummed that I haven't heard any new background music so far this season. It seems like they're just reusing music from both the original show and the first season. And I'm like, oh, I really did like the first season soundtrack, and I was really impressed with how he was able to follow some of Kajira's style but make his own spin on it. And I wanted more of music from him, so I hope that we get some more original tracks.
Yeah, but yeah, so far. I mean, like I said, I went into this with very low expectations. So that might be affecting my feelings on this, but not bad so far.
Yeah, compared to the first season where it just felt like we were going through the, basic stuff of the game, but but being weird about it.
Yeah, the first season was like, yeah, we're going to do this stuff, but we're going to skip fights. We're going to have an insane mug store. Sana's house is going to be a fucking ludicrous fucking avant-garde scene. Whereas this was like, even when we had all that stuff in this one, I actually like all of the stuff with Yachiyo and her emotional state was really intriguing in this episode, like or engaging, I guess.
Yeah, we like Yachiyo.
Yeah, I've always kind of liked Yachiyo.
Yeah,
and also just it's like if they want to twist away from the original story, so I don't know what's going to happen. That's obviously better.
Oh, Yachiyo also had a pretty good transformation.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
But also, I love how she has a cool transformation, and then Mifuyu just does like the bling, and then she's transformed. Yeah. And it almost seemed like she was like, "I'm not doing that."
But that's like, I like that because again, it was a reflection of emotional states. Like Yachiyo is here to kill Mifuyu and anyone else she can, and he's fucking mad. So she does like a huge transformation, and Mifuyu's like, "Fine, ding."
And Yachiyo kind of does a little bit of like a weird dance before she transforms and is like, okay, Yachiyo.
She's just a bit out of it at the moment.
But yeah, I mean, I guess hopefully we'll get to see some more interesting, I hope more good transformations, because obviously we only had those one episode last season, and it seems like they're remembering to do them more this season, so that's good. That's very important.
Yeah. Now obviously, we've been reviewing shows week to week. We've been hopeful before, and that turned out to be a mistake. So, hoping this one doesn't.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even call myself hopeful. Like I'm kind of pleasantly surprised so far, but like if the shit goes down the tube, but I'm not going to be like, "What? No."
Yeah,
and be like, "Heh."
Yeah, so that's that for now.
Yeah, so we're probably going to do it every 2 episodes. So we'll see you because 3 is already out. So don't spoil us. Don't fucking spoil me. I haven't seen it yet. And and after 4 comes out, then we'll be doing every 2 episodes. We'll keep you updated on the Magukas.
Yeah, on these acceptable Magukas.
Have a nice Maguka, everyone.